Hello and welcome to Chaplain's Word of the Day. The word I want us to consider today is politics. Today I'm commenting on Matthew 25 verses 15 through 22. Then the Pharisees went and plotted to entrap him in what he said. So they sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are sincere and teach the way of God in accordance with truth and show deference to no one. For you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, "Why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax." And they brought him a denarius. Then he said to them, "Whose head is on this and whose title?" They answered, "The emperor's." Then he said to them, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. If you haven't noticed, 2020 is not only a year of pandemics and riots, it's also an election year. Also, if you haven't noticed, the political climate in our country has become more and more divisive, and our country is divided and fragmented in any number of ways. What should we as Christians and members of God's kingdom think about these things? What should we do? Well, as is always a good idea, let's consider what the Bible tells our attitude should be. And the first word I want us to consider about our attitude is participation. The scriptures clearly indicate that we should participate in the political process. Jesus clearly taught that in secular matters, taxes, we should obey our secular authorities. Paul expanded upon this point in Romans 13 verses 1 through 7, saying that we have nothing to fear from government if we obeyed the law. Now, I frankly find both of these passages remarkable and challenging because let's remember, Jesus lived under the rule of the Sanhedrin and the Roman Empire, neither of which we view today as being righteous or just institutions. Paul did use his Roman citizenship to his advantage and the advantage of the ministry, but the book of Acts closes with him in chains in Rome, even though he had not broken any Roman laws. So, just like Proverbs telling us to train up a child in the way he should go is not an absolute guarantee of success, neither is following the examples of Jesus and Paul a guarantee of political success and community harmony. Still, we must engage with the government because we have no choice. In past eras, the Anabaptists of the 1500s, the English separatists of the 1600s, and the fundamentalists of the 1900s all tried to withdraw from public life and all found that this was impossible. In fact, the current evangelical movement was sparked by C.F.H. Henry's book, The Uneasy Conscience of Modern Fundamentalism, which pointed biblical conservatives back to engaging the surrounding culture, which of course includes government and politics. So, as Christians, we must engage government and politics, but we must do so with the correct expectation, and that's the next point, our expectations. Although we must engage government and politics, we must do so with the correct level of expectation. Like any institution of mankind, politics and government are imperfect. The preamble to the U.S. Constitution states that its purpose is to form a more perfect union, but not the perfect union. No perfect form of government exists. You remember, God warned Israel about having a king, and yet they ignored him with spotty and ultimately disastrous results. We believe in democracy, and indeed Baptist churches are governed through congregational decision-making, which employs democratic processes. But democracy isn't perfect either. As Winston Churchill infamously said, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. Again, no government is perfect, and we should never expect that one can be perfect. We also need to remember that this world will not last forever, and in the end, God will consume it in fire and start all over with a new heaven and a new earth. No human government can provide us utopia, and we should never expect one to. In short, we need to be realistic about our government and politics without being jaundiced and disconnected. So what is left is intercession. That's the next point we need to see, intercession. Finally, and most importantly, we should bathe our government and political processes in prayer. As Paul told Timothy, first of all, then, I urge that petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgiving be offered for everyone, for kings and all those in authority, so that we may lead tranquil and quiet lives in all godliness and dignity. While we cannot make a government good, God can. God can change hearts and minds and lives, and we must petition Him to do that in our country, our state, and in our local communities. When we intercede for people through prayer, we bring them to the throne of grace and into the very presence of God Almighty. What greater work can we do for the cause of peace and good governance? Christian, pray for your government. Pray for your politicians. Pray for all your leaders. In conclusion, let me just remind us that in many ways, Americans are rebellious people. Our nation was born in rebellion, and much of our national culture is a rebellious and stiff-necked culture. Like biblical Israel, our legacy is one of rejecting God's way and God's will. As Christians, we must learn to oppose wrong without being rebellious. We need to revitalize and reimagine the role of loyal opposition. And we need to bathe our government and our leaders in prayer. Finally, regardless of the outcome of the election, or any election for that matter, we need to remember that our God is the sovereign Lord, and we serve Him in anticipation of that day when the trumpet sounds and we meet Him in the air. Thank you for watching. I'll be back soon with another word we can consider together. Every blessing. I'm Chaplain Otis Corbett.